Greetings and welcome back to Room 303 and our chats with Emily, as we are calling our readings through the poetry of Emily Dickinson in the Johnson edition. We are at poem 380. There is a flower that bees prefer, one of Emily's longer poems. I love to teach this poem in the Johnson edition right after poem 379, Rehearsal to Ourselves. This is another flower poem, no doubt. It is another riddle poem because she doesn't actually come right out and say what was actually the title when this poem was published in 1890, Purple Clover. We're going to have a poem here that is an anthropomorphic celebration of the most common of flowers. And immediately at 3A, we'll have to write down Whitman's Leaves of Grass. Our assumption is that you've been following our stuff at learnstrong.net, down that left-hand side, Chats with Emily, our playlist. I'm hopeful that you've worked through our set of introductory comments as well as our preceding poems. We just finished, as we said, with 379, Rehearsal to Ourselves. Now, we're familiar with Emily's love of nature and the way in which she will often anthropomorphize nature, and here we're going to see it. But the point, I think, of this poem, and this is why I love to juxtapose it to the poem that preceded it in the Johnson edition, is that Emily will compel us to consider that even the smallest parts of nature deserve our attention. About the common clover, she'll say it this way. There is a flower that bees prefer, and butterflies desire to gain the purple democrat, the hummingbird aspire, and whatsoever insect pass, a honey bear away, proportion to his several dearth and her capacity. Her face rounder than the moon and ruddier than the gown of orchids in the pasture or rhododendron worn. She doth not wait for June before the world be green, her sturdy little countenance against the wind be seen, contending with the grass, near kinsman to herself, for privilege of sod and sun, sweet litigants for life. And when the hills be full, and newer fashions blow, doth not retract a single spice for pang of jealousy. Her public be the new, her providence the sun, her progress by the bee proclaimed in sovereign swerveless tune. The bravest of the host, surrendering the last, nor even of defeat aware when cancelled by the frost. I love that she finishes with some, what would you call it, military or martial language, as she finishes talking about something as ubiquitous as the clover. Now, of course, we did our full study of Whitman's Leaves of Grass. We call those that series Talks with Walt. And of course, Whitman plays a very similar game. She'll begin by just commenting on a flower that bees prefer, of course, the common clover, and butterflies desire. She'll say to gain the purple democrat, we're back to poem 171 with purple, and the hummingbird, we're back to poems 334 as well as coming 436, aspire. And whatsoever insect, notice whatsoever an insect, both capitalized, a honey bear away, proportioned to his, several here means individual, dearth, and her capacity. In other words, it's simple and it's kind of useless, but it's so powerful that it's so necessary, this common clover. And then, of course, we'll begin to anthropomorphize, first by referencing as a female. Her face be rounder than the moon and ruddier than the gown. We cannot use, think of the word gown without thinking of the white dress of 271 and 325. Of orchis in the pasture or rhododendron as worn. In other words, these beautiful flowers. The common clover is none of these. I think ruddier is a key word for us here, and we'll see it when we hit 756. In other words, it's sturdy. We're going to get to that word here in a little bit. She doth not wait for June. In other words, she is she's capable of coming early. She doesn't have to wait until the fullness of spring, summer for her birth, right? By the way, some have argued that this poem should be read, this line should be read with a full stop after June. Before the world be green. Notice her use of this word be instead of is and are. One scholar has pointed out, it almost gives it a biblical cadence. Her sturdy little countenance, I told you guys about her use of the word little, 172 poems. Against the wind be seen, and for those who love that Bob Seger song, Against the Wind, you can smile. Against the wind be seen, contending with the grass. And again, this use of the word contending will take us to surrendering later in the martial language, right? And you got to smile with the word grass being mentioned. To think that Emily and Walt were contemporaries, although they never met, it's fascinating that they were able to connect somehow through lines like this. Contending with the grass, near kinsman to herself, or privilege of sod, hear all these S sounds, of sod and sun, sweet litigants for life, and then the L sounds. She's playing around, obviously, with the sweet litigants, or the grass as well as the clover, right? And when the hills be full, and newer fashions blow, newer as opposed to readier, right? Newer fashions blow, doth not retract a single spice for pang of jealousy. She's never jealous about, for example, the other beautiful flowers that are obviously going to look so much better than her, right? Her public be the moon, the noon. Her providence, here all the P sounds here, and of course providence here, the caretaker, the gardener, or whatever. The sun, her progress by the bee proclaimed in sovereign swirless tune. You can hear the S sounds there. In other words, the growth of the clover isn't, taken care of or followed by the gardener, but by the bee, obviously. The bravest of the host, we think immediately, not one of all the purple hosts who took the flag today. Successes counted sweetest. Surrendering the last, more martial language, nor even of defeat aware. Obviously, you cut the hay, you cut the clover, when cancelled by the frost. In other words, self-sacrifice. The clover does what the clover does and does not ask for any kind of, congratulations or the like. At 2a, I think her argument is that there is nothing insignificant in nature. And I think that's a profound insight that obviously Thoreau will make the observation, as will Walt Whitman, as will obviously Emerson himself. At 2b, I like this use of the word be instead of is, are, as a biblical kind of note. It has that biblical resonance to it, respect. And then, of course, the repetition of sounds we pointed out. At 3, I cannot help but read this poem and think of Rime of the Ancient Mariner. He prayeth best, who loveth best, all things both great and small, for the your God who loveth us, he made and loveth all. That idea that everything has some kind of need for respect, sacredness. Finally, at 3b, what is your favorite, for Emily, in this poem anyway, was the clover. But for you, what is your favorite insignificant part of nature? I hope Emily is making you smile. Thank you.